Beyond.
Beyond.
Wow, look at that. You guys all have the giggles. A whole bunch of giggles here right here at Podcast Beyond. Welcome, everybody, to Podcast Beyond, episode 470. We're back once again. Here we are. We're doing it. It's happening. We got a great show lined up for you. I don't know why I said that. People always say that at the top of shows. Really good show. Happy to be here, folks. I'm Max Scoville. I'm joined by Alana Pierce.
Greats.
Marty Sleva.
Whoa.
And Brian Altano.
Deets.
Yeah, greets and deets. That's what we should have called the show. Let's see. We're going to talk a little bit about Watch Dogs 2 again, because that's a game that came out and some of us played it a bunch.
It's a real game.
PSX is happening later this week. Who's going to that? Marty?
I'm going to. It's an audio show.
Yeah, I didn't know if we
And Goldfarb
And little Andy
and
Goldie.
Zach and a bunch of people are going to that. I won't be there, unfortunately, but I will be covering the...
You guys are going to be doing the pre and post show.
Pre and post show
I don't know
stuff.
if you knew that, but
Covering that from home base. Final Fantasy 15 finally came out. That's a thing. And we got some rumors about Marvel vs. Capcom 4. But let's start things out a little bit by talking about Watch Dogs again. Some more.
You mean Secret Game of the Year?
Secret Game of the Year.
Secret Game of the Year.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, like we're gonna be talking a bit about Game of the Year stuff in a second, but like, Brian, have you beat this yet?
No,
Okay, how far are you?
I'm probably 80% done with the campaign, but I'm probably 60%, 70% done with the stuff outside of it. I've been mostly just like gathering resources everywhere, hacking everything, and getting my character awesome.
Okay.
The story stuff is actually like sort of secondary to me. It's cool, it's fun, but it's not what I'm there for.
Marty?
As someone who has not played very much of it, how do you actually finish it? Because I know that you have to get followers that act as XP. Do they unlock more missions, or how do you finish it?
There is like you've got your kind of DedSec app that shows you your side quests, and they're clearly labeled like side missions. And then there are co-op online ones, which are I think replayable. And then there is one that just says main mission, and basically you can't do that until you reach a certain point.
Yeah,
And it just won't,
but you
it
can
just
have
won't let
multiple
you.
main missions
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
But I feel like the way all of us have been playing are that the side quests are super fun, and just messing around in the city is super fun. So I consistently have like 30 things to do.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, I want to do races, or I want to try an actual mission, or I want to go like
Pet some dogs.
pet some. Oh, you get achievements for petting dogs.
you?
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing, like this game is so surreal because I keep having missions in places that I've either worked or I've dated people who've worked there, and it's freaking me out to have like main missions in places that I'm very familiar with in real life, which
You're
I
like, is
really
my
love.
ex going to show up?
Yeah.
Do I have to hack my ex?
Yeah,
Yeah. How much time you put into it, Marty?
probably 15 hours.
Okay. That's one thing that's really weird about it is it, as far as I can tell, it doesn't have like a amount of time spent in the game. I powered through it. I don't know how long it took me. I mean, it was like just marathon sessions of sitting around over Thanksgiving break. So I was like, I don't know if that was a long game or not. I think it was kind of just average for Ubisoft. I'm guessing probably like 20, 30 hours or something.
That's kind of a feature I wish was baked into the OS on PlayStation.
Like Steam has that.
3DS does
Xbox
it really
does
well
too.
Yeah.
too, where you can just kind of pull up your stats. I love systems like that. It sucks that that's not really a thing.
I like the 3DS way of the 3DS. I think all Nintendo systems do of like, hey, on this day, this is how much time you spent on each of these games.
But I feel like Nintendo does it for negative reasons. They're like, please stop playing.
Yeah,
You should
yeah.
take a break. It's been
Yeah.
15
What if
minutes.
you went
we
outside?
showed this to your boss.
But yeah, Watch Dogs, like I've been, I went into that and I was like, I think in the first couple hours, I was like almost disappointed. Like I was kind of just bummed out. I really, some of the characters are really annoying kind of off the bat. And the story I didn't really care about, but then as I kept going through it, I kind of warmed up to it.
I think that's going to happen for me. I'm going to play it over the December break. Right now, I'm so into Dishonored that it's very hard to even consider playing Watch Dogs when Dishonored is a much more involved game, I think. It's like a lot more intense. The narrative is a lot more dramatic. So it's really hard to try and even consider jumping from Dishonored to Watch Dogs.
Watch
Or playing
Dogs
both at once.
is a dumb game.
It's a casual
It is
game.
It is
fun.
a silly, stupid, goof around game.
Yeah.
And
Like,
it's a thing you can jump back into after a week of not playing it, or jump into drunk, and you can totally play it just
Yeah.
fine. And
It's it reminds me a lot of Far Cry 3. It's kind of
As sold you said that to me, I was like, oh, sold.
Yeah. So I think the best thing it does is that it is the shooting stuff in there is pretty much there as just as a decoration. Like it is not a shooting game. Like you can play it like an action game. You can still blow stuff up, but like it's so much more of like a weird kind of tactical puzzle game almost. I love it because it's man, it feels like Far Cry in the kind of like you just go explore and you find outposts and you're like, I want to do this. And then when there are missions on your map or stuff you want to go check out, it really just hits that kind of like that sweet spot with sandbox stuff where if you get distracted on the way, it doesn't really feel like it's a problem. It's totally okay to kind of just go off the beaten path. But it's odd because I love Far Cry 3 because it was
the phrase beaten path.
No, somebody in the control room sneezed like so hard. It was like a cartoon sneeze. Sorry.
yeah. You
It
good?
was like, we're on you.
You all right? You're not supposed to apologize after you sneeze. That's weird. Bless you. Gesundheit.
I was going to ask since you guys have all played a lot more than I have, who here has played Watch Dogs 1? You have?
Yeah, I finished it.
Yeah.
I practically 100%ed it outside of
I
like a
did
couple
too,
missions.
which is weird because I didn't like it that
Really?
much. Yeah, Watch Dogs 1.
So
it
I
was
think
like-
you did.
Maybe. It's very strange. I played a lot of it, but when I reviewed it, I was like, yeah, this game's not great. Like, I don't really...
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I was going to ask, what do you think are the biggest differences outside of the sense of humor?
I think that this sort of world in general is a little more fleshed out in Watch Dogs 2. I do think that Watch Dogs 1, if we're going to get into it, like I think it has some advantages. I think that like some of the driving hacks seemed a little more pronounced in Watch Dogs 1. Like they make no sense, but those spikes that come out of the street were used a lot in Watch Dogs 1. Watch Dogs 2 less so. It's more about like hacking traffic and hacking helicopters and stuff like that. And I thought the variety of the world in the first one was a little bit better in terms of just like there were like straight up like forests and like creeks and canyons and stuff.
Was there drone stuff in the first one?
No, you did not. You did not have
Okay.
an RC, and you didn't have
Because
a.
I think that
flying
is,
drone.
without question, makes it a different game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what separates this from pretty much any other open world game to me.
Yeah, the drone stuff's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it because like the drone stuff, you go in, you can play entire missions without physically being in the missions.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's cool because you can basically be outside a restricted area and send your little guy in, and he'll handle everything for
Yeah.
you.
And my favorite missions in Watch Dogs 1 were the ones where I would jump between cameras
Yep.
to get stuff done and never
You did
even
that a
actually
bunch.
go in.
Yeah.
And I love that
Yeah,
stuff.
and they have actual puzzles in the worlds themselves. And yeah, I think this is I think every inch of this game is about being more fun.
I think
the world's
so,
more fun,
yeah.
the characters are more fun, the mechanics are more
So
fun.
from
the
when I
missions
was
are more fun.
first playing it though, it seems like the hacking is like strangely overcomplicated at first. It could be just that I hadn't learned it, but it was like, why are you giving me two things to do everything when it's like hold this button and then press this when
Yeah.
I only have one thing I can do?
You get used to it.
Yeah.
It actually like it looks a lot more complex than it actually is. They're pretty much rudimentary line puzzles about like twisting and turning blocks. It's like I don't know.
Did you mean like the line puzzle stuff or just the hacking the environment stuff?
Either.
Okay.
Mostly
because
hacking. yeah.
hacking environments is basically just moving a drone up to something and hitting the triangle button.
Also, if you're able to be immersed in Dishonored 2, I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
I think it's a slightly more
That's fair.
complicated
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
Jumping into Watch Dogs, take your time with the story stuff. Go around, collect research points. Really just level up
like
your
Far
stuff.
Cry.
Like grind
Yeah.
a little bit. Yeah, get yourself. It's gonna suck if you try to play it just running head first
Yeah.
in there.
Because the more you unlock, the more fun the game is.
I think this
Yeah.
game's got a serious like sort of like Wind Waker problem too, where like the first mission sucks.
Yeah.
Like I don't like the first mission at all. And
Yeah.
It's very slow and
You
it's
like the start of Wind Waker?
No,
no. I love the start, but the first dungeon. in Wind Waker's
The
first dungeon, the prison.
The prison? I
Yeah.
liked it.
Nah, dude, that
Really?
I
sucks.
love all of
the
Wind
stealth
Waker.
stuff.
Yeah.
I would love to do a feature on IGN someday of like the best games that have like the worst first levels or something
Yeah.
like that.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's. I think Max is right in that like going in and kind of just like cool thing about this game, the entire world's open to you right out
Yeah.
right
Yep.
at the gate.
Also, fast travel is a thing you don't have to unlock if you
Yeah.
want to get to. Basically, you can fast travel to any store, like clothing store, car store,
Immediately.
restaurant, which don't serve any purpose. I don't think. I think maybe get health or something. But like, it's great because you're just. You're like, I need to go to a mission that's over here, and you look for the nearest thing to fast travel to, and you just go there, and it saves so much time.
Speaking of clothing stores, I love the variety of clothes.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
really
it.
cool.
Yeah.
Every
And I love how
person's
each
market
store
looks
is a
different.
different, like, there's like
Brand.
the hipster store, and then there's the like marina, like,
Yuppie.
yuppie store, and then there's a tourist store.
Yeah.
I wanted to say, like, aesthetically and just tonally, it feels so much like Saints Row 2. Like Saints Row, the first one was basically a San Andreas knockoff, pretty unabashedly. It was going so hard for that kind of like, South Central, gangster approach. And then the second one started getting weird. You had like, monster truck professional wrestler bosses. And like, then the third one was basically effectively a reboot that was still in that same universe.
Was the second one the one with the like the dump truck that shot feces?
Yes.
Okay.
That was that one. That was when they started
car.
basically.
It's just called the dump
They
truck.
started having their sense of humor, you know?
yeah.
But
Which
if you
was
looked
the one
at it.
with the tiger in the car and the dildos?
That was the third
That
one.
was the third one.
With 3 was when it basically embraced its silliness.
Yeah. And then 4, you're a literal superhero because why not?
Yeah, that's when they totally. I think there was a mission where you jumped a shark. Like they had a gun that shot sharks. Like they got so weird with that stuff. But yeah, like Watch Dogs 2 has its like colorful and silly moments. There's a part where you steal the car from Knight Rider, which doesn't make any sense. And there's all this stuff that is like
From Lucasfilm, basically.
yeah, right? Which is like, why would they make a Knight Rider movie?
You know what? Don't worry about
anyway,
it.
They made Turtles.
yeah, but they've got all this this really dumb stuff, and at the same time, there's stuff that's still trying to be like political and trying to send a message, but like it feels so like it's just inconsistent in the way that Saints Row 2 is, and like mechanically, it's fantastic, it's super fun, really fun to play, but at the end of the day, you're like, it's not Luda narrative dissonance, it's just kind of incoherent.
Is it not? I can't comment on it, but I have seen people talking about Marcus being, incredibly violent and killing a lot of people, and that not at all adding up with his personality.
So I think that's up
you
to
don't
player
have to play
choice.
it that way.
Yeah,
right.
and it was like Max was saying before. I was going to comment on this, but he said it was not really like a shooter. I think we're playing it like that. But I think if you went in head on and upgraded all of your machine guns and stuff like that, it's a shooter. Because I think the shooting mechanics are competent. They're strong. They're great. I actually like them better than most of the GTA games, which I've never been totally crazy about the shooting mechanics in the last few GTA games, despite the overall picture being awesome. But when I play these games, I play them all melee and stealth.
Yeah.
So
that's the same way I play.
When I blow somebody up with like a grate, I assume they live.
Yeah,
it's Batman.
it's not a gas line; it's a steam explosion.
Yeah.
So probably they just get scalded.
Yeah,
even
they get
though
a
they're
burn
clouds.
face.
Also, when I go into the Batman night vision mode and I pull out a pistol and shoot someone, I'm like, I think that was a taser.
Yeah.
I'm gonna assume that was a taser, not just a pistol.
You run people over with your giant Batmobile tank that has tasers on the wheels, and you're like, no, he's just knocked out.
Yeah,
it's
he's just
fine.
killing
That
them.
dude lived.
No, I
She's
mean,
sleeping.
I keep hearing that argument too about like Marcus is like a violent. It's like, no, you're playing it as a violent.
You're
person.
violent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're sorry. Like
It's you.
no, you're being
So
Trevor
I
still.
guess-
Like,
You're the mean one.
But I guess
Yeah.
what the criticism would be is that it doesn't, none of the dialogue adjusts to how you play.
No.
congratulations, it's a video game
Yeah.
still. Like
Yeah.
it's still like
Sure.
I mean, that's the thing is they make all these kind of comments about like, oh, like it's basically SJW GTA. Like you were straight up like you were like hacking, health insurance companies and
Yeah, you're going after big pharma. And,
yeah,
No, but so-
there's So
to Alana's point, because I think you're onto something here, Alana, is that there are a lot of games sort of that gave you that kind of like tilting scale of like, are you playing good? Are you playing bad? I know games like
People react to you differently in some
BioWare
games.
game.
BioWare
like True
games.
Crime
Fable.
or that weird what was it, like Streets of LA, those games
True
where
Crime,
you played as a cop and like you could be a bad cop or a good cop.
I mean,
and-
Dishonored does that.
Totally.
Spot on.
Yeah. So Watch Dogs is pretty much just like, oh man, here's a cutscene. Like they don't really, like, you get 5 stars if cops are after you, but there's no like, dude, you're a horrible bad hacker.
I guess that can in part be because the game's meant to be fun, and as soon as you punish people for, even if they're having fun in a way that's really violent, like causing mass explosions or
Yeah.
killing a lot of people, they don't want to make them feel bad about it because that's against what the point of the
I mean,
whole
it's the
game
same
is.
thing with Uncharted. Like, you were there for a good story, and Nathan Drake kills literally
A lot of people.
100,000 people.
The
in
key
his life.
difference is there's no part in Uncharted where you can bypass that by
Yes.
not being
Sure.
violent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
in
mean,
this
playing,
case,
playing Watch Dogs 2 with a gun feels like playing The Witness with a guide. It's like, yeah, you're getting through it, but like, that's not what this is about. Like, I think you're really missing the entire point of this. If you're playing guns out, you're missing all of the fact. I mean, just play GTA at that point, like play literally any other game. Because I feel like once you actually get into a mission and you've got 2 different drones going and you're hacking different cameras and you're moving around stealth killing people and stuff like that, or stealth hurting them, then it really shines, right? But like if you're just going in like guns blazing, grenades out and stuff like that,
There are
you're
better
like,
games to play.
There's better games to play.
It would also be really interesting to see how many people actually play it that way. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if really many people at all would, because it almost trains you initially to use the stealth options, to use the
Yeah.
drone and the jumper. I wonder if anyone really would just.
And see, that's the kind of thing I would love like a GDC postmort on or something if they broke down the stats and how people are playing these things, because they couldn't just specifically take the guns away from you, because they are our failsafe. I've been 95% through a mission and been like, oops, guns out. But that's a last ditch effort for me.
Yeah.
So that's a really
Those
good
are
point.
sleepy bullets. It's fine.
Yeah. Also, you can totally just
Funny
you can
rocks.
just, snitch on somebody and have gang members come up and
I
do your
love
dirty
that.
work for you. And
Yeah.
you're like,
That's so
oops,
cool.
I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's true. I haven't killed anyone, but I've, sent gangs on
Your
just
hands-
so
That's
many
what
people.
mob bosses
They
say.
do the
Mark.
dirty work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to double down on what I said last time. This is probably my favorite game this year, gameplay wise. I mean, story wise, there's probably better ones. Like Firewatch is, I think, a way better story wise.
Yeah,
but
there's-
Firewatch
free.
wasn't as fun to play.
Yep.
So
I'm completely with you on that. I had a really good time with it. The one thing I wish so much that they had just leaned totally fully hard into the early 90s, like Hackers, the movie. kind of approach, and there's so many parts in the game where it just feels like that stupid movie where they're like, what's a computer? Who knows? It's a magical thing where you do a line puzzle and then suddenly the files are yours and skulls show up on the computer and acid burn, crash, override forever.
Yeah.
You
That
know?
3D printer is incredible.
Yeah.
How does it print all that stuff?
It's nonsense.
So quickly.
All of
Yeah.
it, like there are montages in, and if anyone like listening hasn't seen the movie Hackers, like go watch that because it's so wonderfully dated and it's still like a ton of fun. And Angelina Jolie is 19 in it, so there's that. But like it's.
Point at them.
It's just like there's a part where they climb the Empire State Building and they're using a laptop to use a cell phone to hack something, and you're like, what are you doing? What does that mean? There's a part where they gush over a 28.8 modem.
Like, why would you want that in the game?
I would love it if you still had all like the crazy
For the
superpowers
character?
you have. I mean, the thing is Watch Dogs is not realistic at all. Like it never will be.
Yeah.
And but if they totally leaned into that, like, oh, like let's use the time period to frame this as being kind of silly and over the top. Like you could have rollerblades. Like, and I feel like it's really close to being that.
I think they probably wanted to
rollerblades?
play it a little safe.
Yeah.
They didn't want to put off.
Also, I still think it sucks there's no bicycles. Like it's San Francisco, there's bicycles everywhere. There were 3 bicycles shoving me on the train this morning. Like, where are the bicycles in this goddamn video game?
Also,
Anyway,
don't say it's not realistic
San
because
Andreas did
Twin
it.
Tower still looks like a fully erect wand.
Big
you mean
old
Coitus
dong.
Tower?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on the train with you this morning. Are you saying I'm 3 bicycles?
You're 3 bicycles short of a bicycle race. Is for
Perfect.
sure. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. PlayStation Experience is happening this weekend. What is that?
Well,
What
it's
is
sort of
that?
a multi-day thing if you want to factor in the Game Awards, which are Thursday night. It's the award show presented by Jeff Keighley. The awards are cool, but the exciting thing is that there are, I think, going to be 10 world premieres.
Wow.
We know Mass Effect's going to be one of them. We know Zelda's going to be one of
There's
them.
that British lady that introduced. She goes, "Well, premiere."
Yeah, not anymore. She passed away last year.
What?
Yeah.
World premiere.
Rest in
Well,
peace.
now it's just Alana. Now it's the Australian
Hired.
doing it.
Yeah, before we get into that, do
Yeah.
you want to talk about the meet and greet that you guys are doing?
Yes,
Yeah,
I have all the
mention
information
that.
right
Cool.
here.
You
So
got
be-
the deets for the meet
Deets and greets for the meets and greets.
You know what? We don't have to do that anymore.
we can do that. We can keep doing that a bunch.
Dang.
Deet and meats? That sounds gross.
Can I get your meats deets?
What kind of meats?
Dieter's Meats.
Can I get your meat tails details?
Okay, for the love of God, just read the thing.
Beyond Fan Meet and Greet at PSX 2016. Friday, December 2nd from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. It's at Arcade 2084, which is at 520 South Claudina, St. Anaheim, California. That's Claudina Street, I guess, or St. An.
It's
or-
Claudina Street. The city is not
The
called
font's
Saint
weird.
Anaheim.
Okay, the font is weird. 520 South Claudina Street, California, 92805. It's $10 for unlimited arcade gaming and console gaming. So this is a big arcade. There's tons of game stuff there. Goldfarb and I will be there hanging out for a little while. So come through, meet some Beyond fans. If you see us, say Beyond. We'll be in the cut, as the kids say.
At St.
What is that?
Before they
Anaheim.
kill someone.
And if
Saint
you,
Anaheim?
if
My
you
favorite
get,
Metallica
Beautiful
album?
Saint Anaheim.
St. Anaheim. And if you get lost, just head over to the Facebook group. It's facebook.com/group/podcast beyond.
so that's
the
Arcade
information is
2084.
posted in there. We can pin that information or whatever. And, it's
already pinned.
Yeah, pin it. Anyway.
Somebody else pinned it.
Cool.
It was not me.
So yeah, onto the award stuff. We know that. Yeah, we know the things. They're going to be there. And it's going to be great. So,
Great, that covers it.
What do you want to talk about?
Yeah.
What
Well,
you
I mean,
guys-
so
what you
the
guys thinking about?
awards are on Thursday, and then PSX proper is Saturday and Sunday with
Yep.
the PlayStation keynote in the morning, which in the past
Hosted by
we've
Jeff
Keynote.
Keynote. Damn it.
Hey.
It's not hosted by Keighley even. It's not hosted by him.
Oh, dang.
We're not going to just let a pun hang in the air like
It's
that.
not even a pun if it's just a lie.
We're
But
not going to
also,
lie.
West
All right.
streaming, I think IGN is streaming
Yes.
the
We're streaming the Game
awards.
Awards, and we're going to have a pre and post show.
And you can print out a
stream
ballot.
Yeah.
And it's very fun to play a drinking game. You play with your friends and you want to bet on which game is going to win because you can print out
I get it.
the
What's
nominees.
drinking?
You could also just drink.
No, I kind of like drinking
I
games.
like drinking games.
Yeah.
Drinking is the number one drinking game.
Yeah.
Is it?
Drinking and hiding.
No, it's not good.
What?
Drink and hide.
I want to
love
say
that
real
game.
quick, the Game Awards are definitely something that have gotten better and better and better
Yep.
every year, which is I don't know, really rare in this world to have
Yeah.
something that just consistently improves. I don't think I've ever seen one where I'm just last year's was better.
Yeah.
If you look at the first game of the year, the first Game Awards, right? Do you guys remember it? The very first
was
one?
it the Joe McHale ones?
They gave Game of the Year to, I believe, to Madden. Within the first 3 minutes, and cheerleaders ran out in the crowd around all these people that were just drinking and sitting at these roundy tables. And it was
Ooh.
just what are you doing? What's going on? Then there was that year Joel McHale just came out and was just
Really
video games
mean.
are stupid
That
and I
was
hate
so.
you
That
all.
was that was when they were the VGXs.
Yep.
Are they still? They're the Game
They're
Awards
just
again?
the Game Awards,
Okay.
the TGAs.
Yeah, the VGXs was the one where it was like Keighley kind of took this thing and he was like it was going to be online, and we are like, oh, it's all online. It's going to be shorter and more curated. And then they were in this weird barn full of airplane parts, and Joel McHale was just really mean to Tim Schafer, and it was just very bad.
Yeah,
very
that
bad
always
time.
hurt because I was like, oh, I like both of you. Please don't do that to each other. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that like Keighley is like definitely like pushing the direction these things can go, and it's I think he's done a really good job of kind of trimming out the fat of award shows, which is hard to do because it is typically sort of a back padding.
Yeah, and it's a good combination of you reward some of the best games of the year. The Lifetime Achievement Awards have always been really great. This year is Kojima, which means we're probably going to get Max thinks we're going to get another weird little Death Stranding thing.
He just put up a sick poster that was like a movie poster.
Really?
Yeah, Norman Reedus.
Yep.
Do you think he's going to be
We'll
there?
probably just get nudes of Norman Reedus at this point.
It's just like
nice.
we're gonna
Like,
see
look,
here's
At this
right.
beautiful naked man.
Here's Norman
I don't know
Reedus'
why
big old
he's
wiener.
European.
Whose accent was that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Kojima?
Not sure enough of that.
Yikes.
Kojima's voice changes when he sees the nude
He's
man.
European.
Yeah.
God, I want to see Kojima and Werner Herzog do something together. That'd just be real weird.
Yeah.
Real weird.
Just give Werner give him the Metal Gear movie.
Yeah.
Think about
God,
that.
that'd be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is a good question. Jesse Flores from the Facebook group says, "Is 2016 the hardest game of the year decision ever?" I was thinking about this a lot, looking at just kind of like the nominees for the Game Awards and just kind of what's come out this year and like what's my favorite, And honestly, it feels kind of sparse. And it like there's been a lot of good stuff, but it's like there hasn't been any like just blow the doors off, like write home about it stuff.
I think there's been a lot of great stuff, but I will agree that for me, there's no that one game. There's no like Phantom Pain where it's like, oh, like this is probably going to be a Journey where it's like, oh yeah, this is it for sure. But there are, I think looking back, one of you guys put the notes, this was a good year, but not great year for games. I think this was an incredible year, and I think this will be looked back as
Okay, it was a great year. It wasn't an incredible year.
Okay, but I think this will be looked back as one of the best years in the past decade.
I kind of feel like it's partly that we started the year with really, really, really good indies, so the bar was already really high.
Yeah.
So everything is just very good, so nothing really stands out. Like Inside is incredible.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if that gets Game of the Year. The Witness is also an amazing game, and those are things that we got really, really early on in the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that like when I look at last year, the debate I was having in my head of like Metal Gear versus Tomb Raider versus Bloodborne versus like Witcher and stuff like that was when I look at this year comparatively, it's just not the same. Like this year didn't really have that like 3 or 4 games competing for my number 1 slot. Although
agree.
like how spoiled do I have to be that I'm like this year only had 2 games competing.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, like looking at it last year, we had like I had a Metal Gear game, I had a Star Wars game, and I had The Witcher. So like that's an incredible combination of things. And
Also Fallout.
yeah. But yeah, like last year we had the big, massive open world RPG stuff, like
Yeah.
the really huge games. Half the games that I loved this year or that I finished this year that I really loved were games that came out last year.
Yeah.
And then there were remastered things, and there were things that we maybe expected last year, so our hype was higher then. And then
honestly, this year was full of games that I wanted to completely adore and ended up liking, but not really loving. Like, and that's fine. They're all great. Like, I look at something like Uncharted 4, which I had a really good time with a lot of that game. But overall, I mean, if you had told me a year ago that Uncharted 4 probably won't be one of my Game of the Year nominees, like I would have been like, you're crazy. Uncharted 4 is going to be definitely probably in the top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And for me, it's somewhere around the lower half of the really good stuff I played this year.
Yeah, I think like Uncharted 4, it's funny. Obviously, that's up for a ton of nominations at the Game Awards. Nick Robinson from Polygon tweeted like, "Does anybody else like kind of not remember a lot of it, or does it sort of seem distant?" Obviously, it came out 6 months ago, but it very much feels like that sort of that popcorn flick that you went and saw. You walked out of the theater and you were like raving about it, and then months pass and you're like, "Oh yeah, I saw that."
Nobody's talking about it now, and I guess it's because it wasn't that affecting.
Yeah.
It was a great game.
Yeah.
But I haven't spoken about it much.
And I
since
think
we
it
finished
deserves all the awards for visuals, for performances, just incredible characters, like just really, really well done. Art direction is phenomenal and probably
beautiful.
unmatched, right? I would say it's going to be a long time before we see a game with that level of visual fidelity. Probably even Horizon Zero Dawn is going to get close, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of like actual gameplay and sitting back and really remembering the story that much, they both kind of sifted away from
Just
me.
wish it had been a little bit shorter. But while I still think this year was full of really, really good games, and I would like totally argue that with all the indies we had at the start of the year, I agree that I I felt like I was waiting for the end of the year to be like, nothing yet is definitely game of the year. Like I thought it was going to be The Witness, but I wasn't like last year where I was like sold. It's obviously The Witcher.
Yeah.
You know, it was like even the year before that was Wasteland, South Park, I think, and I was so set on that. Whereas this year it's kind of been like, all right, we got to wait for this chunk of time right here, and then it'll pop out. It's been a strange year in that respect.
Yeah, and it's also interesting when you look at Q1 is full of things like possibly Zelda and Horizon and Persona and Mass Effect, and so there are these games that were originally supposed to be out in 2016 that got
really good
pushed to the
point.
beginning of next year. So those may have been the games this fall that were going to resonate.
That would have
with us.
I
dominated.
think that always makes it feel like we look at, and you'll get this on some weird like list results that come up if you search like games of 2016, and there's a bunch of stuff on there that you're like, that's not out yet, that hasn't come out, that's not coming out, and like, you know, the Prey 2 that we see is the old logo from when that was something else, and you're just there's always that like your expectation of how that list looks versus how it actually looks.
Right.
And then you get something, you know, you get a year like 2011 where you look back on it, you're like, holy crap, that was a good year.
Yeah, maybe that'll be next year. I mean,
yeah,
Zelda, you know, starting with Zelda. You kidding?
Yeah.
And Horizon Zero Dawn, which both look just absolutely beautiful.
I don't think anyone's playing Zelda until like June or July.
I think you're probably right about that.
Oh, dang.
But yeah, this is, I mean, like, it feels like petty to like just talk smack about an entire year of video gaming, but like, I think last year was a little better.
But I think it's interesting to kind of delve into
Really?
why.
Yeah, I completely disagree with you.
I mean, there's a weird thing with development cycles where I think it used to be like, it used to take, you know, for the most part, studios, publishers to make like 3 years to make a AAA game.
Yeah.
And that's changed a lot.
Yeah.
You know, we have more kind of short term or longer tail indie stuff. And then there's stuff that gets announced too soon. And then there's stuff that gets, you know, announced and then released. And then, you know, everyone's kind of doing stuff sort of differently.
Yeah.
And it also, with new hardware, it takes a minute to get to that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Kind of, and also like, we're looking at this like there's a consistent sort of cycle here. Like last generation of last generation of consoles was almost 10 years. You know? And that kind of like towards the end, it was like, here's stuff that's going to get remastered because they've got to nurse that, you know, they got to milk that. And
I mean, I think the reason this year resonated with me so much and continues to resonate with me is because like I look back, one of the first blogs I wrote when I was at 1UP, so one of the first things I wrote in the industry, I think it was 2011, I was talking about the 3 games I was most anticipating, and they were The Witness, they were Final Fantasy Versus 13, and they were The Last Guardian. And I'm at this point, and I've played them. Like, and that was this year. That is what 2016 will be to me, is I got to play those games that I've been waiting for 5 to 10 years.
That's true.
Which I don't know. What are we looking forward to now that we're not going to be able to play for 5 years? Like, do we know any, like Death Stranding?
Maybe.
Like, you mean, yeah,
Like-
that for sure. I mean, Zelda, obviously. Like, in terms of games that
but
we've known around.
not until 5 years from now.
Cyberpunk 2074
Yeah,
or
like-
whatever.
Yeah. But it's also, last year was super enormous open world RPGs. This year is kind of tighter, more narrative based indies. And I feel like it's so hard to even compare those two things. Like, completely separate worlds, but both really, really valuable in their separate ways. And people, I think, can sometimes just dismiss an indie as not AAA quality because it's an indie.
Yeah,
like I feel like no one in this room would do that, but that is a thing. They don't, you know, talk about them as much. They don't promote them as much. So it's like we're not seeing the consistent flow of hype that maybe The Witness would have had if it was a AAA game.
Sure.
That makes sense.
I mean, we also got that sort of like big wave of shooters this fall, which are all really great. They're just none of them I would really like quantify as my game of the year or anything like that. I'm glad they exist.
Yeah.
I had fun playing them for the time I played them, but they're the spectrum of giant shooters versus like the weird like Abzus and Firewatches and the Witnesses and stuff like that. Like it was cool in that regard. Like, you know, that level of variety is awesome. I appreciate that.
If that's why Dishonored 2 is my game of the year, because it's so different to all the other stuff that came
Yeah.
out.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the things I really like, is that the discussion of Game of the Year this year is going to pull from so many different genres and voices. And I hope that's just going forward. That's what it is. It's not 10 games that kind of look the same. It's going to be 10 games that are so incredibly different. We're all like, why are we possibly comparing these things to each other?
Yeah.
It's
It'll be
stupid.
a loud, weird, passionate, heated meeting between a lot of interesting
and
people.
we'll also be talking about Pokemon Go, which is the weirdest thing.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's a tough one.
I mean, and to be fair, I haven't played Final Fantasy 15 yet. I haven't played
Yeah.
The Last Guardian yet. I'm going to start that tonight. I haven't.
Those are 2 really huge ones that we're still waiting on. So
I haven't played Dishonored yet. So
Dead Rising as well.
Oh yeah. So there's a lot of games that are still on the way. Speaking of which, Final Fantasy 15 is out.
We did it.
Yeah, Last Guardian's in our hands. We're gonna have more on that next week. But in the meantime, Final Fantasy 15, formerly Versus 13, that's a trip. That was revealed on May 8th, 2006 at E3. That was a minute ago.
Yeah. What were you guys doing May 2006?
I'm the only one who wrote. I feel like this was a trick. I'm the only one who wrote anything in the notes here. I said,
no.
No, you didn't.
I did, but down below. Under
did you?
big movies and games and events,
Oh, okay.
I wrote what I did.
Yeah, I wrote Max tried to go back through his Facebook feed, but the earliest thing was in September 2006 because we
Wow.
were still using MySpace then. He was working in a bookstore, attending community college, and trying to have as much sex as possible. He hadn't yet gotten drunk.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
2006.
My summer vacation.
2006, you needed to be in a handful of very specific universities with an email address linked
Yep.
to those schools in order to have Facebook.
Damn.
I think I wasn't taking enough units at my community college to have a .edu. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell, right?
This would have
Wow.
been, I think, within the week of me being very excited for the season 2 finale of Lost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Trying to figure out how old
Yeah.
I was.
yeah, I would have been.
Yeah.
I would have been 18. Yeah,
I was fresh out of a very long relationship and trying to figure things out. And I think I was probably about a quarter of the way done with my first album because I was just like, hey, I'm single now. And I've emerged from this like cocoon of like being in a relationship where I was reconnecting with all my friends and my family and just diving headfirst into personal projects and stuff like that. And I think I started like the early drafts of the website that I made that eventually got me hired out here. So I was living probably in New Jersey. That's so long ago.
I was 13.
yeah.
So there's that.
So you were also not getting drunk.
No, I was not getting drunk yet. No. Didn't
Really?
have a
Even
breakup with an album either.
in
so-
Australia?
Yeah.
No,
I didn't
that's
break
more
up
like
with the
15.
album.
Break up with an album. It's like, your breakup comes paired with an album.
Oh, like
Got it.
Taylor Swift.
Just like Taylor Swift.
And the
Adele,
Taylor Swift of
Hey,
Beyond.
Here's a real trippy one. It's a thing that was going on in 2006, May 2006, is the PS3 wasn't even out yet.
Damn.
Like, we are a console generation and a half that it's taken this game to get released. Elder Scrolls Oblivion was a big game at the time. I think that
Yeah.
came out in
if
March that year.
Yeah, PS3 wasn't out yet. That same goes for Last Guardian then.
Yep.
Like that wasn't
Yeah.
even a man.
Yep. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Final Fantasy 12, The First Prey, and Call of Duty 3. There have been
Yeah.
a bunch of Call of Duty games
Yeah.
since this was announced. X-Men 3: The Last Stand and Superman Returns were the big summer movies.
Well, those
that year.
franchises really skyrocketed.
What the
after that.
hell?
It'd been what, like 3 years since a new Star Wars movie had come out.
It had been 1 year.
Yeah,
Was that 2005?
Yeah.
2005 was Revenge of
It
the
was
Sith.
it was a year like that. Like
It
Revenge
was
of the
probably
Sith-
coming out on DVD.
And it probably Blu-ray wasn't even a thing.
No.
People
Yep.
were like, "What is that? I'm going to get an HD DVD player."
Obama wasn't a thing.
Yeah, he was. Oh no, well, I mean, he was still a thing to people
I
in
mean, like,
Illinois.
yeah, but we didn't.
He was only 13
still
years
alive.
old.
No one had ever played a Vita.
Yeah.
PSP Go was at this year's E3.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Remember that
so
one?
Anyway, Final Fantasy 15. What do we think of it? Can we talk about it?
real
have you played
pretty.
it?
Yeah, it's stupidly gorgeous.
So pretty.
Yeah, I've put about 4 or 5 hours into it. I'm finishing up. I'm reviewing The Last Guardian, so I want to finish that up before I jump super hot into it. I am loving this game so much. What?
You said Dump Jump Super Hot.
Yeah.
It's like
Sequel to Super
everyone's
Hot.
favorite mobile game.
Did I say Dump Jump?
Jump super hot.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah.
you said.
Ah, Crappy Bird. I love it.
But no, so far I'm adoring the world, and I really love these 4 characters. The battle system's slowly growing on me, but hearing everything Vince said in his review, which you can read now on IGN, he gave it an 8.2, which is a great point. Awful.
What? Ooh, man, that was a
wow.
little roller coaster right there. You had me and then you dropped me. Like a
no,
nest.
like a nest. It was called the Dump Trump Goof Troop. What was it called?
Dump Jump Super Hot, I'm pretty sure it was.
Goof Troop.
Yep.
I think.
How'd we get there?
I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm really liking it so far. It really does walk the poop
Sloop. It's a small sailboat you do craps in. How's Final Fantasy 15, Marty?
So wait, what did you not like about the battle system at the beginning?
I think it
Good
is
noise.
something that you need to get used to, especially coming from a big fan of the series. Alana, pull it together. You should apologize. I think coming from somebody who's been a big fan of the series since literally Final Fantasy II, getting away from the turn-based thing is going to be weird for people. Like, you're going to have to get used to it. And it's also not quite...
Still going, huh?
Still having it at the poop shoot?
Get the real giggles there.
The Aussie giggles and wiggles. Yeah. Another PlayStation Mini.
It's like a weird middle ground between... Oh my God, how
so
are you
sorry.
still doing it? It's a weird middle ground between traditional turn-based comment and then, like, it's not quite as deep as something like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden. And so coming to terms with what it is took me a little bit, but once you embrace what it is, it works really well.
So
in the
what is
world
it?
of this game it's a hybrid of the two of them. It takes the sort of before you enter a skirmish strategy of a Final Fantasy game, along with the quick reflexes and, in the moment decision making of a real-time action game. I like it so far. Yeah. And it's super pretty.
And you play pretty much every Final Fantasy game, right? Or at least the main
Every
ones,
single
right?
player one. Yeah.
Got it. Because I played them a lot growing up, and then just kind of dabbled here and there. And I've seen a lot of their marketing, and I'm like, everyone tries to do this with a new entry in a franchise, where they're like, it's perfect for beginners and hardcore longtime fans. And I'm like, yeah, you always say that, but from what I'm hearing, like that's actually
is.
legit this time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had conversations about this before, but I feel like this might be the Final Fantasy game that kind of brings Final Fantasy back into being a must-play thing, whereas kind of, I guess, after 10, maybe even after 8,
Yeah.
it stopped. Like, I stopped
Yeah,
playing
probably
at 10.
after 10, yeah.
So I feel like this is going to be the thing that brings it back into the forefront and makes everyone want to play it again. And
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see if this is successful, because it's been critically successful, if it's commercially successful, if this is sort of setting the tone and creating the grammar for what Final Fantasy will be going forward for the
Yeah.
next decade or so.
Sure.
Which
Which I love. I hope they pull a Star Wars and start dropping the numbering system. Like,
love
I
that.
mean, I
Yeah.
will tell you that no matter what you say to me about how this is great for new fans, seeing the number 15 in the corner just means there's baggage. And it
Yeah.
means that there's a bunch of dudes that are going to show up. I think they're dudes. I don't know. And they start yelling at me about things that happened in the past games. And I'm like,
What if it's just Final Fantasy Xiv?
oh, you have to actually pronounce the letters.
Zix?
Final Fantasy Xiv.
You don't think that's going to alienate fans and people that don't understand
love
what the
that.
hell
It's
you're
actually
saying?
pronounced Kingsglaive.
I was going to ask about that actually. How important do you think Kingslave is to the story, which for those who don't know is the movie?
Yeah.
Do you think that it still makes sense without watching that? Do you think it adds a lot?
It makes sense, especially because they the day one patch is taking certain key moments from Kingsglaive and literally inserting it in the game as cutscenes that you will watch.
Oh.
Oh, whoa, really?
Yeah, which is interesting. But I still think I think one of the best things about the game so far have been the camaraderie between the four main characters, which the Brotherhood anime, which is a quick 5-part anime that's free on YouTube, sort of gives you more backstory into that, and makes it even more powerful. So I always hate telling people that there's required reading going into it, because it's not really, but like in order to get the full picture, yeah, a little bit.
I'm so excited just about the weird little details, like just having a cookout, driving a car.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there's do you have to get fuel? Like, do you have to get gas?
You have to gas up every once in a while, or else your
I
car breaks
love
down.
that.
It's a
I
road
love
trip.
that.
Yeah.
That sounds really tedious, and I'm just so excited about the idea.
Also,
of it.
one of the
Like,
recipes you learn is cup of noodles, just straight up.
oh,
Is that
really?
a recipe?
Yeah, which is weird because it's a high level
know if
recipe
that's-
that also
sponsored?
like the game's sponsored by a bunch of stuff like Coleman Grill.
What?
Wow.
Coleman Grill
Yeah,
sponsors the
Gary Coleman's Grill. Yeah, it's a grill for it's just a very small grill.
Official outdoor cooking supply of all weeaboos.
Yeah.
Has anybody done like a Guy Fieri Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives mashup with that car? We're rolling out.
I think that's been done. Yeah, that's
probably
I
been
feel
done,
like
yeah.
Do it again.
do it
Link
faster.
it to me.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I'm really excited about this. Maybe this is like the big open world RPG thing that I need to get my hands
Yeah.
on. I read one thing that was a kind of a big disappointment is they teased that ridiculous flying car chitty chitty bang bang nonsense that you get
Yeah.
for your airship Cadillac or
Yeah.
whatever. Apparently that doesn't, like, you have to beat the game to unlock that.
Yeah. It's called Carrot at the end of the tunnel.
The carrot at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
That old chestnut.
That's just, there's like a lot of jokes you could make there.
Yeah.
Just about like
a
sex.
sex? Yeah. I
Like
was
a
thinking
hot
that
dog
too.
in a
Yeah.
hallway. Just a carrot at the end of the tunnel.
Tic Tac on a well.
But I don't know if the horses are scared of the dark in that tunnel, but I hope they follow that carrot because the light is there too.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
the second time that horse sex has been a thing today.
Yeah, you brought it up the
that's
first
a weird.
time.
That's
Did I?
a,
Yes.
I feel like Jared Petty did that.
He does that.
Blame Jared Petty.
Anyway, another thing we're hearing that's going to be coming out of PSX and the Game Awards is Marvel vs. Capcom 4. Polygon scooped some stuff about that, and rumor has it, I think we heard this before, that it's going to be a focus on the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which means no X-Men. It means it's going to be all of the Disney-owned guys,
Yeah.
which
So Marvel vs. Capcom have always been my favorite fighting games forever, and we haven't had one since I technically
The ultimate.
second part of 3,
Yeah.
which it was just an add-on to 3 because Capcom do that. But it's been a pretty long time now,
Yeah.
and I've been waiting for this for a really long time. So
Yes,
it's,
and
So
it's-
how do you feel about this then?
I'm really disappointed not to have some of the characters. I love Wolverine.
Also,
Like,
it's insane
Yeah.
because, like, in the competitive scene, Wolverine and Magneto are two of the go-tos.
Yeah.
Like, those are the two mains. And so
Also,
it's like, well,
I mean,
like the
Phoenix,
whole-
dude.
yeah.
Like that
Yeah.
to not have Phoenix and Dark Phoenix is crazy in Marvel
Yeah.
Capcom.
But like, wasn't this sort of a spin-off of Capcom's X-Men fighting game too?
Yep.
Like it started
X-Men
with
versus Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like even before that, wasn't there was like Children of the
Children
Atom
of the
too, or
Atom,
was that
yeah.
a beat 'em up, or was Was that a fighting game? I don't know. But like, yeah, they were like, it was X-Men that was the big brand of the early 90s that was allowing that to happen.
Absolutely.
There was like an Infinity Gauntlet game or whatever, but like X-Men was the big thing back then. And now that's like fallen apart. And like, it makes me so sad. I love the X-Men.
Yeah, well, it's like if they were like, well, here's a new Smash Brothers, but there's no Pokemon in it. Right?
Yeah.
Or you just strip away like one of the major parts of it. You'd be like, it still works. It's still okay. I'm sure it's going to have an awesome roster. In fact, focusing on the MCU means it's going to open it up to characters that we never would have thought would ever be in a game like this. But this whole deal sucks because this really just comes down to this keep away that Disney and Fox have been playing with these properties. And it's the fact that we've gotten mediocre X-Men movies for the last few years. The fact that the comics now are actually mediocre because Disney is pretty much actively sabotaging the brand to make sure that no one goes to see that they're doing this thing where like the worse it does, the less valuable it'll be, and then they can get it in a fire sale a couple years from now, like they did with Spider-Man.
It's like a custody battle if the parents were taking turns trying to kill the child, so neither the other parent wouldn't want it. If they were like, we're gonna suffocate the kid.
That's really great. Can we talk about horse sex? Yeah, it was awful.
Horse sex and dead kids in Marvel vs. Capcom.
So it is like I agree with all of this. Like this super sucks, but at the same time, like we would have probably never gotten something like Guardians of the Galaxy or Ant-Man as movies if they could, instead of Guardians of the Galaxy, if they could just do good Fantastic Four movies, or if they would do X-Men movies. Like
that's true.
There is like we wouldn't have the weird corners of the MCU, I think, if they were allowed to have the entire AAA roster.
It's also that this does mean we get entirely new characters, which like I look at badly because I'm so attached to Wolverine and his Berserker Barrage.
Yeah.
Like I love that stuff because that's what I've always gotten from MVC, but this does mean we'll have different stuff. And it'll play it differently. That's not always bad.
It's that weird, you have to do that weird sort of battle in your head of like, is this better than nothing at all?
Yeah,
because what we had was nothing at all.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, it's better than nothing at all. It's like Round Table pizza or something. You're like, I could have had nothing, but now I'm eating Round Table. It's not great, but it'll get the job done. I think
bad pizza is just bad pizza. I don't want bad pizza.
I don't want bad pizza either. No, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, but do you want nothing?
I prefer nothing of a bad pizza.
Sometimes I want nothing, honestly. I think in this scenario, like this sucks. You take away two of the main two of the characters that people identify with the most. Yeah. Like to lose, it's not like losing. Like when to go back to Smash Brothers, which I keep referencing because it's another giant sort of roster-based character battler. When we lost Snake, it was like that sucked, but at least we had him. But like we made do. But Wolverine and Magneto are like That's two of the biggest characters.
I went back and played Okami because of Matarasu is in MVC. Like I played that again because of that game. Like there are characters in it that I think would also make people read those comics.
Yeah.
Like surely people saw Phoenix and were like, what the hell is
literally
this?
the first time I ever found out who Rocket Raccoon was because of the game. He's in the game. I'm like, who's this talking raccoon? Is he a Capcom character? And I was like, oh wait, no, he's a Marvel character.
Yeah, it's that sort of like rising tide raises all ships thing where you're like, that's cool. Who's that? I want to read
Did you come
about
up with that yourself?
Yeah, I did.
That was very
me.
good.
That was actually one of the levels in that game.
You know, it's actually funny to think about that. Like Rocket Raccoon, like Disney and Marvel plan this stuff so far out. Like they have their whole framework of how the MCU is going to get fleshed out. They probably were like, put Rocket Raccoon in there, and I bet Capcom was like, really?
Yeah, like no,
why?
trust us.
All right, fine. So
Could be,
maybe there's going to be some really weird character that shows up in this, and we'll be like, oh, are they coming in a movie soon? Is that going to be a thing?
What if there's an Ant-Man that's only like 2 pixels tall?
That'd be really.
I mean, I
cool.
could totally see them doing that. That'd
I
be
think
awesome.
that Ant-Man would actually work as like an ultimate move.
Oh,
they would have it like he gets really small. So
He goes in your nose and he punches you in the brain.
probably.
You're really gross.
I mean,
really
Almar's got those little Pikmin friends that they jump all over.
You're talking
your
about
head.
like a little Ant-Man in a hallway?
Stop it. Stop that. Anyway, time for Rapid Fire. This is, of course, the section of the show where you ask us some questions and we do our best to answer them quickly and always fail. Rapid Fire is a place where you can ask the questions. You just go to facebook.com/groups/podcastbeyond or our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/IGNBeyond, and you can go there and subscribe. And sometimes there's little fun secrets. Anyway.
Like an episode last week that had the last 20 minutes
That was cool. Jessica Bowen said, worst Final Fantasy boss fight.
Ooh. That's not good. Stop it.
You lose.
Trying when I was a kid and played Final Fantasy VII and trying to beat Emerald Weapon without the materia that removed the timer because you fought this man named Emerald Weapon underwater.
Final Fantasy
And you had to
is so
remove you had to equip a certain materia that allowed you to
the right
breathe
materia.
underwater. And okay, I could make fun of any. You were just said I like to get excited about the game where a cricket rides a wolf god.
That sounds great.
Wow. Yeah, you really. That was all right.
Yeah.
But I like Final Fantasy, but it's dumb.
Everything is dumb. Everything we talk about is
point.
dumb. But
That's
yeah,
true.
trying to beat that boss fight in 20 minutes as a kid, just over and over and over again, and not realizing that that wasn't the thing to do, was very disheartening.
I'm totally blanking on her name.
Jessica.
The Seed Lady.
Definitely not her
FF8.
name.
What's her name?
Edna?
Yes.
Yeah, Edna the Seed Lady.
Was the black and she's just not a fan of that.
All right.
Great.
Yeah, I believe her name was Edna.
Was that
Yes, the Seed Lady.
was that big snail? Was that in 6?
Big snail?
Is that Big Snail or was that in Mystic Quest? I don't remember.
Might have been a Mystic Quest.
I don't think there's a
Yeah, I
snail.
think it's a Mystic Quest.
Anyway, thanks for your question, Jessica.
I don't like
Bowen.
Mystic Quest that much anymore. I don't think it's a good Final Fantasy game one bit.
It's not
What's
a Final
everyone's
Fantasy
favorite
game.
Final Fantasy?
You don't even want to hear mine.
One?
Crystal Chronicles.
Oh my God!
I love that game. It's like
Isn't
arcade
that the
Final Fantasy.
lamp carrier, the game?
Yeah, it's four players. You make the your friend you hate the most carry the lamp, or the. Can I say? I'll say it. We used to call them the bucket bitch. There, I said it. I don't
all right.
beep that or whatever.
I like 6, 9, and 12 the best.
Yeah.
Hey.
69,
Yeah, my favorite's
24/7.
mine.
I like the one with Cecil and Palom and Porm and Pom Pom, whatever the boys are called. That was pretty good. My friend in school told me that if you go into the bar in that game, you can get the character to jump on the bar and dance, and then get a frog costume for the rest of the game. And I tried it for like 2 hours, and it's not real. It's breaking news.
Heard it here first on your number one Final Fantasy podcast, comprised of people who totally
God,
have
I miss
played all of the
Andrew.
games a bunch.
Where's Andrew?
Yeah. Miguel Jimenez Limon says, I picked up a good haul of games for Black Friday. After installing them, I went back to playing Fallout 4 because the thought of starting any of them was so overwhelming. Does the scope of a game or your backlog ever make you completely shut down? Marty, take it away.
Not completely shut down. That being said, there are things like Dishonored that I'm very clear, Dishonored 2, that I'm very patiently waiting to start when I know like this is all I'm going to play because this is a game that's going to be mechanically intense. Whereas like I said, Watch Dogs, I'm going to be playing that over the course of the next month. Something that's short, I'll burn through in a weekend. But Dishonored, like I want to devote all my time and energy to.
Right.
But there's also like, I don't know, I've talked about this a bunch that I miss out on a lot of the giant open world games because I just don't. I sort of get worried about devoting that much time to something.
That's what I was like with Mafia 3.
Yeah.
My backlog is enormous because I used to collect games. So I have probably over 100 games that I own that I haven't played. And I actually weirdly kind of do this where I'll buy a AAA game and then be like, but wait, this game is aging. So I'll I was sick the other week and I went back and played Enslaved because it was like I have all of these new games that I could play, but then I always look at it like that game eventually is going to be almost unplayable compared to all the new stuff and I'm going to hate it, so I have to play it now.
Was it your first time playing Enslaved?
Yes, and I loved it.
interesting.
Yeah.
I thought
Absolutely.
it was like I'm sick. I need comfort food.
No, I played it for the first time despite having access to all these new games. So I was like, this is the one that I want to play.
That's really cool. That's a
cool.
really interesting point. I never thought of it that way. I know there's the whole like the concept of going to a backlog to be like, oh, like everyone says I should play this, but playing a game to preserve it in your own memory is really smart because like that's totally true. Games don't age well sometimes. Like
I feel like I've played about half of Bully and then stopped playing, and I feel like it has a timer
That's
on it.
literally what I was
like
just
I feel
thinking.
pressure. I'm like I have to finish Bully sometime in the next couple of years, or I'm going to hate it. Like I have to do it.
Really funny. So I reviewed the Ezio collection, which has AC2, Brotherhood, and Revelations, which I love, or I thought I loved. And I would have totally been like, yes, like if you've never played Assassin's Creed, start with 2 and like play this entire trilogy. And then I went back and played them, and I'm like, oh God, these are hard to play after like what 3 and Black Flag and Unity and Syndicate did for movement and controls and collision and mechanics and storytelling. Like Ezio's story is still cool, but like those games aren't super fun to play. And so now my thing
sad.
is like, hey, if you want to jump into your first AC game, do Black Flag or Syndicate.
And it's weird because like books and movies and TV shows don't really have this problem, right? Like you can go back and watch an old movie and be like, yeah, it's cumbersome, it's got crappy special effects, but
a little bit. Like if someone's going to go back and watch like Twin Peaks or even The Sopranos, I'm like, all right, just prepare yourself a little bit for X, Y, and Z. They do
Yeah.
some weird things just because
Yeah, I guess you're right.
they didn't evolve with the times.
No, I'd say that movies definitely, like, the technology does have a limitation to it. Like, watching older movies, the sound is one of
Yeah.
those things that's really jarring, where like you'll be like, why does it sound like they all have, why do I sound like I have an ear infection? Like
Yeah.
they're all kind of echoey and
Still feel like that's not half as bad as a game with super aged mechanics. It's
Oh,
like
no,
going
totally,
from
yeah.
playing Ocarina of Time on 3DS to playing it on 64. You're like, oh wow,
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
not easy to
There's
play.
also games that straight up like from the olden days that don't even let you skip cutscenes or
Yeah.
like get through. Like there's like entire sections where you're like, I have to play. They don't have bad checkpoint systems.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I hated
Yeah.
that.
But it is
Um,
really funny. Whereas, like, I think Super Nintendo, I think every game has aged perfectly.
Yeah.
Which is insane. Like, I think
Yeah.
every game will be timeless.
So to back to what Miguel was saying, one of my concerns that I've learned to sort of like curb myself with, I'm still pretty bad with this sometimes, is digital hoarding. I think is absolutely a thing that can happen all the time. I guess I borrowed Shadow of Mordor from work and played it for a while, and then they did that pro patch for it, which looks amazing on the TV in the office, which I just picked up. And during the Black Friday sale on PSN, it was like $7.99 for that full game,
Yeah.
like Game of the Year edition or whatever. So I was like, oh, no brainer. I'm totally going to grab this. And I don't know if I'm going to play that game again because I found out also the digital version of that game acts as a separate SKU, which means it resets all of your progress.
oh
which is
God, that sucks.
which is either
dumb.
awesome or terrible because I don't remember where I was in that game. I didn't finish it, but starting
I
at the
don't think it
beginning is
matters
kind
in
of
that
cool.
game.
Huh?
I don't think it
I don't
matters in
remember
that
the
game.
story of that game. I just
Yeah.
remember the dirty
So
men getting mad at me.
the funny thing about that is that game does actually learn how you play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it tailors itself to you. I was playing that with my buddy Bill, and he would like just grind a bunch. And most games, you're like, oh, you leveled up my character. That's cool. But in that game, like that means that his nemesis was some dude who was
Completely
good
different.
at killing him. And I jump in there and I'm like, I have no idea how to play this anymore.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah.
totally tailored to his play style, which is like a totally like that's something that only affects that
Yeah.
game.
I really hope we get that sequel gets announced.
God, I
That's
would-
got to be
yeah,
working
weird
on
stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe this weekend.
Yeah, but I do that a lot where I'm just like, this game's on sale. I'm going to grab it and I just have it on my hard drive.
I do
or
that with Steam really bad. I
Well,
add
it's
things
so
to my
easy-
wish
yeah,
list,
yeah.
buy all of them when they're on sale, and then don't play
It
them.
sucks even more on PlayStation because like if you're dealing with a 500 gig launch console or even a 1 terabyte PS Pro and you haven't swapped in something bigger, you're constantly micromanaging. And I'll delete a game. Like I played like the first few hours of Witcher and was like, I'm not really into this, and I deleted it. I don't know if I'm going to download that game again. Like it's just in my library, and the library is basically like that scene at the end of like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, no, there's no reason to go in here. It's a bunch of boxes of the
Yeah.
spiders.
Yeah,
and
but then you
rats.
go back at the beginning of part 4 with your Nazi friend Kate Blanchett.
I don't have any Nazi friends.
Oh dang!
You've
Yeah.
never met Kate Blanchett?
No,
Right.
no.
She seems great.
I liked her in Lord of the Rings. There's plenty of games where I just look at them and I'm like, oh man. The one thing I think is so stupid is games with like notifications or like where there's just like basically like a little icon on your inbox, whatever the inbox is, whether it's quests or it's items or it's missions available or whatever the hell it is. Like Metal Gear is especially bad with this, where they're like, oh, you've got all these things to cash in, and I'm like, what are they? Like I'll
Yeah.
go on there after 2 weeks and it's like, you've got MB plus points. I'm like, what is it? And they're like, you're in the short league. And I'm like, is this a fantasy football game? Like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, congratulations, you've picked 1,500 flowers. You get a prize, which is more flowers. And I'm like, I've got too many flowers. Why does this man collect flowers anyway? He's a warlord. It's
insane.
But yeah, like, I think, Ubisoft games are obviously really bad about that, where they're like, hey, look at all the things you didn't pick up. And it's like, I'm good. I don't need to. And I think there's a lot of games that really just like, they target people with, obsessive compulsive, habits. And, that's fine. I don't think it's like mean exactly, but it's like one of those things I have had to consciously kind of shut off. Like, I was thinking about this when I played Pokemon the first time. For whatever reason, the whole like "gotta catch 'em all" slogan kind of went over my head,
Yeah.
and I didn't feel compelled to catch them all.
That never worked on me either.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna get the cool ones.
Yes.
Screw it. I don't
Gotta
yeah.
catch a few.
Yeah.
Maybe only get some of them. Just a few.
I want to be pretty good and get some of those animals.
Not them all. Just
Yeah.
find a handful of them and then maybe play something
Gotta
else.
get the cool ones.
I'm okay. I'm not that great at this game. Just all right. That's
I
all
got
right.
a
I'm a C+,
Charizard and a
dude.
Scyther and a Farfetch'd.
Hey, those are good Pokemon.
Yeah. To be mediocre. Anyway, Samuel Jordan says, what game did you think you wouldn't like, but when you finally played, actually loved? Mine would be Bloodborne.
That's totally mine as well. Metal Gear Solid 5. I was like, after 4 was such like garbage nonsense that I was
don't
like,
like fall.
these games are so stupid. They're so up their own asses at this point. We're so deep into the story. And then everyone was like, I'm really disappointed in this game. It doesn't carry the lore of the franchise. I was like, ooh, give it to me.
Yep.
I can't wait. And then I started running around like, fultoning sheep and stuff like that and killing people. And it was like, this is awesome. I don't care about anything that's going on. I could even skip cutscenes because they're nonsense to me and just play it. And it was so much fun.
Yeah. Mine would have actually been the first Dark Souls. Like, if someone was like, hey, there's a super hardcore action RPG that you're going to just die for the first 20 hours until you learn what it is. I'm like, why would I ever want to do that? Like,
Yeah.
I would never want to do that. And then I was forced to do the guide, and I was like, this is terrible. I want to quit. And then all of a sudden, it clicked with me, and I'm like,
figure out the
oh,
dance.
this is my favorite thing ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something romantic about Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Mine's Spec Ops. And that was because when it came out, I didn't know anything about it. And a friend was like, I've been playing this shooter, because my friend clearly didn't understand what Spec Ops was about.
Or he doesn't know talking either. He's just like, oh, no, you
I've
out
been
of
playing
my
this
mouth.
shooter, man. And
Words
so
fall
I
out.
tried Spec Ops and was like, even at the start, I was like, this is just a generic shooter. And then I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
No, it isn't.
Yeah. I think it's really good.
It is very good.
Mine's Sleeping Dogs. There are two things. There are a handful of things that I just can't get into, like thematically.
Sleeping
One of them,
and dogs.
I love both of those things, as you well know. They're almost they're symbiotic, really,
Those
because
are
the dog
literally my
sleeps in my
two
bed.
favorite things.
Yeah,
Those are the two things that keeps Max from getting to work on time.
damn right.
Every day.
But no, like I don't care about organized crime stuff, like mafia stuff, mob stuff. It's just one of those things. Almost no matter what the angle is, like I just don't care. Whereas like buddy cop stuff, I love it. I'm totally drawn to it.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I'd probably much rather actually do crime than be a cop in real life. But here we are. And then kung fu stuff, like Chinese stuff, it doesn't click with me really. Like I never got into like Hong Kong cinema or anything.
You hate Italians and the Chinese.
Yeah. I don't know why we're friends, honestly.
Brian Altano, Chinese Italian
No
man.
Chinese Italian.
But no, like I love Japanese stuff, but like Hong Kong cinema, like I respect it, but it's never grabbed me. So the
Right.
fact that they were like, hey, here's a game that's basically rooted in Hong Kong cinema and it's Chinese mafia stuff. I was like, okay, maybe, and then I fell in love with that game.
Such a good game.
And it actually kind of inspired me to go check out like some old like Infernal Affairs.
What if the next Mafia game was called Mafia: Chinese?
Yeah.
That would be really weird.
What if there's a Kevin James movie called Disorganized Crime?
Shut up. All right. Thomas Rogers says, how do I approach you guys at PSX without sounding like a bumbling idiot tool?
Oh, you yell beyond.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Which
the correct
outside
answer.
of PSX would make you sound like a bumbling idiot tool
Yeah.
because it's just a weird word out of a sentence. But Lana's totally right. Yell beyond, come over and say what's up to us, and we'll say hi. That immediately puts us in a
Yeah.
place where you listen to the show and we're all friends, or you used to listen to the show and you hate us now.
Yeah,
That's fine. Yeah.
It's the
Then we
same
have
as
something in common.
Either way.
It's the same as that noise that man in Journey does, where he's like, and then you go get the scarf pieces or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like that actually translates to Beyond. So if you shout Beyond, like
Cool.
other people might pop up and be like,
Oh,
Beyond,
man,
Beyond,
that's right.
Beyond.
I reviewed that game. That's not good.
Yeah,
Someone should have told me.
yeah, collusion.
Yikes.
Yeah,
That's
I
probably
mean,
why
like
you got that knitted fabric you're wearing. You probably collected pieces of
Yeah.
it.
I've said this on a bunch of shows, but like conventions in general, that's not a normal thing. Like for humans to do. So it's weird for everyone because they just sort of be like, let's take all the people that kind of like a thing and shove them together in a warehouse.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right. And it's loud and it's smoky and there's like women dressed as like video game characters. You're like, what am I doing here? It's
Yeah.
weird,
I mean,
but it works.
It's
you
kind of
know?
like a prison, but instead of like the thing in common being that you used a knife on someone, the thing in common is that you enjoy a video game.
What
That's
the
actually-
hell did you
Nice.
just say?
Brian
Like
liked
you-
it.
there's a lot of different crimes you can do to get into a prison.
Oh
It's
no,
not
I'm
just
talking
a
about
knife.
that specific knife prison down
Knife
south.
prison?
Knife
Yeah, down south.
Okay, so
Well known in Australia.
Paul Mastriani says, without any big titles on the horizon beyond Resident Evil 7, how do you feel about the future of PSVR? Excuse me, there is Star Wars VR coming out soon. There's a Final Fantasy PSVR segment that's attached to
I
it.
mean, this is a decent point though because
Yeah.
those are both coming out in December,
Yep.
and Resident Evil is January, unless my prediction that it's going to get delayed comes true, which is probably going to be a fake prediction because that's not happening. But I think at PSX they need to show us what's cool about PSVR in the first half / rest of
Totally agree.
2017.
And I think PSX is going to be great for that. I think that like just giving us an idea of what we're going to be playing is going to be really smart because it's one thing to buy something and be like, I'm here for the launch games. It's awesome. But we're rapidly like leaving launch window, which means we get in that sort of post-launch slump of a console. And we'll see where we go from there. That being said, the most sort of unexpectedly delightful thing about PSVR is that some of my favorite games on it are games I didn't know I was buying the system for. There's a bunch of things I like. When I saw Eagle Flight at E3, I was like, Scraw, this looks stupid. We're all yelling Scraw in the room. I'm like, what a goofy game. Those weird Frenchies over at Ubisoft. And then it's like turns out to be one of my favorite games on the system. Batman VR, people were just sort of like, oh, it's really short and it's cool, but it's kind of like a tech demo. And I played it and I'm like, this is awesome. Like Super Hypercube, Rez, all those games are sort of like mid, kind of lower tier games, not like AAA games, but that's how you pad out the life of a system. It's not just about the Metal Gears and the Witchers and the Resident Evils. It's about the sort of like games that you're going to play on a week to week basis. When I see the drop on the PlayStation blog update, shout out to Ryan Clements, update every single week, I'm always looking through for the PSVR stuff, and I'm always like, what's that? Like we were talking about Time Machine last week, and I'm like, I didn't know what that game was 2 weeks ago, and then I played a bunch of it, and I'm like, I like this game. So it's sort of on you to find what's out there and dig it up, and that's where like we try to help you with our reviews and with stuff like what VR playing. But for the most part, like I think you're going to get a lot of like big sort of tentpole stuff with a lot of other stuff peppered in between. That being said, like I'm not a Star Trek guy, but I want to try that Star Trek The Bridge game.
That looks
just
so
like,
good.
Yeah, like getting a bunch of buddies like to like mess around on the Enterprise. Like I don't know what I'm doing.
But it's a
in that ship.
communication game as
Yeah.
well. Like I think that's really cool. But
There's
I mean,
one thing we're great at: communication.
I don't know if you guys saw, Ubisoft just announced that all of their PSVR games will be cross-platform multiplayer with Vive and Oculus,
Holy
which is
crap,
awesome. So
that's
you can play like what is it? Werewolf Within and a bunch of other stuff. Just across the board. So I love that. I think, like we said, we'll have to see from PSX. My main concern right now is like hardware-wise, I want to see better Move controllers. I know it's going to split the base a little bit.
it's totally going to happen eventually.
Yeah, it's got to happen. I want to see a breakout box that works better with HDR.
Yeah,
we'll see where
I'm
we go.
curious to see if, like how we were talking about, I feel like last year was the first year of this generation where stuff like Witcher and Metal Gear, not in terms of just scope, but just like, oh, these guys and Bloodborne, these guys understand the hardware.
Yeah.
And like these games are quote unquote next gen games.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if a year or two from now we're going to start getting these VR things where it's like, oh, you guys understand VR.
Yeah.
Like
I think
this is what these
absolutely.
experiences
Totally.
are.
And I think like right now, going into VR, so many people thought it would just be about first person stuff, and we're learning more and more that third person stuff works really well. Like I just got my code for Pinball FX, which is like, I'm like, pinball in VR? Why? That makes no sense. But maybe it does. Like maybe I'll play it and I'll be like, I never want to play a pinball game any other way. So
You never want to play a pinball game.
I actually like pinball games because I'm terrible at them in real life, and in real life they cost a lot
What
of
if you
money.
could play? You could change the setting that you're in, so you could play like.
So you're the ball.
You could play like Black Knight, but you're inside a cow's stomach, and there's just like food being digested around you.
What?
So
You
here's the
could
thing.
change like the arcade. Yeah.
Sometimes when you have a thought, it's
Yeah.
got to go. It's not like, think about it like a pinball almost, where it rolls down the hill and then it either falls.
Yeah, but sometimes it bounces into a bunch of stuff.
Sometimes it just comes right out of the
Sometimes
machine.
it just shatters out of the glass like in Maximum Overdrive.
So yeah, hopefully
Yo
we get
mama.
more VR stuff soon.
I'd like educational stuff,
Educational stuff.
like a version of Cosmos, but in VR.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd really like movie tie-ins that are in VR.
Yeah.
I said
talking
after
about
we
Fantastic
saw
Beasts.
Fantastic
Yeah.
Beasts,
Yeah.
I would have loved to see the inside of Newt. Is that the character's name? The inside of his
Ew.
briefcase as a zoo in VR. I would like to see peripherals to movies and stuff. Like right now, I mean, I didn't even think about it, but this is a really good question. How do I feel about future PSVR right now? I have ideas of what I want, but for stuff that's coming out, there's very little that I'm excited about
But also,
right now.
I'm hoping there's more like, hey, this movie comes out in a week. Here's a free VR thing. As
you see
opposed to
that-
like The Martian, which got a VR thing
Yeah,
like
right.
recently.
Which,
and I'm
by the
like,
way, avoid that because it's very bad. And
No,
it's
I think
like $20.
I think we're going to see stuff that works on like Google Cardboard, but works better on Vive and Oculus and things like that. I think that Westworld demo we saw is probably going to show up on.
I still think about that thing every time I watch the show.
was a cool
I have
time.
this weird moment where I'm like, "Oh, that's the facility. I've been there," and I'm like, "No, I haven't. I just got pushed around in a VR." So,
Yeah.
Fascinating.
yeah.
But yeah, I love VR. I feel like I'm probably going to just buckle like out of the blue, like on like a Wednesday night or something. I'm going to be like, I want PlayStation VR, and just like overcharge my credit card and be like, well, here I have it. I have the fun hat now. I can talk to Brian in Sports Bar, and we can be Star Trek boys.
It's so worth it,
Yeah.
honestly. Like it's just it's one of the, and again, this actually goes back to the question we got before about something I didn't expect to actually love as much as I do, and it turned out to be something like really, really cool.
Also,
right.
I like the fact that you want to talk to Brian in Sports Bar and be Star Trek boys when the last 5 years of your life you've been talking to him in real bars and been Star Wars boys.
Exactly.
Yeah. Life's gonna $500, life's gonna change forever.
Video games are escapist.
We've been together for 5 years. We need to start spicing it up.
Exactly. We're going to switch over to Star
I got a
Trek.
great fruit
and
for you.
Star Trek and sports 2017. Can't be worse than 2016.
Yeah, we're gonna try some cuckolding. I'm gonna watch him talk to you about Star Wars.
Yikes.
Anyway, John Michael says, who would win in a fight, Lara Croft or Nathan Drake?
I love this question.
Nathan Drake, because he's a cold-blooded murderer, and Lara Croft cries when she kills a deer.
She cried once when she killed the deer.
Okay, and then she killed a bunch of men, but whatever.
I think this is actually a pretty tough question.
Yeah.
Nathan Drake.
I don't think it's a tough question.
He's
at
a
all.
psychopath.
No.
He is kind of a psychopath.
He's
I mean,
a psychopath.
Nathan Drake has never had to like forage or survive or
Yep.
create. I mean,
He
he
just
is a
kind of has
psychopath.
fun. She has to go through a lot of terrible stuff.
So I think like most like sort of like I don't know, hero battle scenarios, it depends on the amount of setup that the characters have. So I think that given no setup whatsoever, I think Nathan Drake ducks behind a bunch of rocks. He's got a machine gun and then he picks up another machine gun and he's fine. He's got grenades, all that kind of stuff. With like ample time to set up, Lara Croft wins hands down because she's setting up like rope traps. She's like setting up like zip lines all over
She has
the
a
place.
gun, but she's upgrading it.
So, but
Yeah.
why do you think that he would win if they both had machine guns?
because
She kills a lot of people with machine guns.
Yeah, but Lara
has
Croft,
no remorse.
Lara Croft in the games becomes powerful because she grows throughout the games in terms of like upgrading things.
So you mean
and
just like
planning.
from the get go, no upgrades?
she's
Yeah.
she's a survivalist
Yeah.
with a master of her environment, right? She's got
Yeah.
the ability to sort of like look at everything around her and fashion weapons out of it. Like you drop them both in the woods with no weapons, Lara Croft wins hands
Yeah,
down.
but that being said, Lara Croft's friends are terrible, and Nathan Drake's friends are great.
All right, so I want
That's
to point
one
out
point.
Yeah.
that Nathan Drake, he's fought the Yetis. He's fought those spider beetles.
Yeah.
He fought the exploding mummies.
Yeah.
Lara Croft has defeated the ogre.
Yeah.
And then there was
And
those,
a
there was-
dinosaur.
and those other men and the dinosaur.
a T-Rex,
Yep.
wolves.
But really, the one true
the
enemy
giraffe.
of Nathan Drake is that old truck that keeps following him around. His nemesis, large
Yeah.
truck that will follow him for entire games.
Really
Yeah.
does.
Just one big old crappy truck
Yeah,
will chase him
like
down an
Duel.
alleyway like
But the
Crash
truck never
Bandicoot.
wins, so Lara Croft can't use the truck against him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the
Never
point
wins.
is that Lara Croft has never she's never had to deal with a truck. She's defeated the ogres and the mummies. Wait, no, the mummies was anyway. The point of the story is they're both fake characters, and who cares?
I like
think
Nathan
Pitfall,
Drake's-
these kinds of
Pitfall Harry
discussions.
would win.
I like Nathan Drake's modest bungalow better than Lara Croft's stuck-up mansion.
Modest
His
bungalow.
modest bungalow.
Yeah,
That's
his,
sex
his
thing?
house at the beginning of
Oh, his
Uncharted
second
4.
vacation house on the water.
Yeah, my favorite sex
That's not a
move, the
modest bungalow.
That dude's rich as wait. Don't they run out of one house into another house towards the? I'm not going to spoil anything, but yeah, that guy's very rich.
No, that was a
the
modest
first house
bungalow.
dies.
He's got a lot
They
of
have
money.
to sell it because it's a
He's got a
recession.
ton of money.
Yes.
He's
There's two
finding
houses there.
all those artifacts. He's not bringing them in the museum. He's melting them down. He's getting gold chains.
He's not melting anything down.
Yes, he is.
No,
He
he's
takes-
hiding them in his
All right.
attic.
Anyway, the point of the story is
so true.
Uncharted
Yeah.
4 and Rise of the Tomb Raider are both fun games that came out on PlayStation this year, and you should play one or both or all of them. Who cares? This is Podcast
One,
Beyond.
both, or all.
I'm Max
Who cares?
Scoville. I'm joined by Alana Pierce. She's on Twitter. She's Charlanazard. Marty, you're McBiggity with
I
two
am.
G's and two T's.
Thank you.
Brian, you're Agent Bizzle. And
I'm
just-
gonna be just pretty good.
And I'm just Max
just okay.
I'm
It's stuff.
we just do this every week, and thank you for tuning in
I'm
and
gonna
joining
get
us.
a few
And
of
if you
those
see us,
little
if you see
monster
them,
boys.
if you see them at PSX, just say beyond or hello or
Why
whatever.
would you
and
need all of
just
them?
start- just
That's
start
really
singing.
just gluttonous.
Just start singing and
You're not eating them.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe find like
And
one or
remember,
two and then just shut it off.
If you see Marty,
Pokemon,
talk
you
to him
don't
about
need them
Battletoads
all.
Don't do
because
that.
he
Please
loves
don't do that.
Battletoads.
Get a few, maybe one or two.
Is this your new thing? Is that you just
don't
ruined the
need
ends of
all
episodes?
of those
Last week was
things.
just the
All right.
Tootsie Rolls.
Only get a few.
Back to you.
Don't
That's
jump
it. The show's
super
over.
hard.